Oh, no.
Here she comes.
Yep, not yet.
Pause it. We'll get
Oh,
pause
okay.
right now.
Pause.
Uh-oh.
No.
I have just a little bit past 1 o'clock. I'll start the Winnebago County Industrial Board meeting. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from November 8th, 2023 IDB meeting.
Move to approve.
Second?
Number second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Public comment on agenda item. Anyone that wishes to speak? I don't see anybody raising their hand, so we'll move on to the next item. Anybody on Zoom? No. Next item, board review and action on proposed Winnebago County IDB revolving loan fund manual. I'll turn this over to Dave.
Thank you. This has been an ongoing process to repurpose the IDB's revolving loan fund. As most of you should know that we've been working with GoEDC on this project. And we are at the point where everything should be in order. The manual, the revolving loan fund manual is incorporated as part of the package here. And we do have Tricia, GoEDC here to answer any questions. I don't know if you want to give an overview on what the intent of the program is, Tricia.
Yeah, I mean, I can just real briefly, again, I think we've talked about this.
Yeah.
And how many meetings have we discussed this now? So really quickly, honestly, the idea is to be able to help get funding for projects lined up, so that way we can get capital expenditures, which would drive, you know, the primary goal is business expansion, which would also have tax base influences, as well as working on job creation or job retention within the county. We also take into consideration what we might see as things that add to culture or attractiveness to our community. So those are really our driving factors. But this manual that you have here is basically the set of guidelines that we will operate within to administer the program on behalf of the county.
And reviewed by legal counsel.
On both sides. On both sides. Things are reviewed more than.
Just wanted to get that up there. Yeah, so and everything, whatever issues were there has been resolved, and I guess, are there any questions? And
Can I have something?
One that I think I know the answer to, I just want to clarify. It's two parts. Is number one, this is going to eliminate the requirement in municipalities to guarantee the loan. And it will not go against those municipalities or the town's debt levy.
That's correct.
Right?
Right.
Excellent.
Right,
Thank you.
right, John.
Mhm.
This has not been voted on yet.
No, but it's about to be. Yeah.
We held off, we made
Yeah.
the table, so.
Yeah, we had to
There
work
was
out a
some
couple
concerns with
issues.
some language
right.
in the manual, and that's been addressed.
Yep. Thank you for that.
Yeah, Mary Ann, you reviewed this and don't see any issues with
No.
this.
The changes that are now in there are acceptable to me. Yes.
And acceptable to us.
Good. Do we need a motion to put this on the floor?
We do.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to the board review and action on proposed Winnebago County IDB revolving loan fund manual schedule A. Is that where, or no, we're on number 4 here.
Schedule A.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're
All right,
we're on number 3.
all right.
Yes.
And that, I second that.
Motion made in second. Any further questions or discussion?
No, I think this is a good positive step. I'm pleased.
Okay. All in favor?
I You need a voice or a roll call vote.
I don't know.
It's unanimous.
On unanimous.
I think it sounds
Yeah.
unanimous.
Unanimous.
I didn't hear a no.
Unless there's any no's, Morris.
All right, all right.
Just
Did you want
those
to-
no's.
So that is passed. Thank you, everyone. The
Good.
next item is board review and action to enter into a 3-year contract with Greater Oshkosh Economic Development Corporation to administer the Winnebago County IDB revolving loan fund program. Here.
Yeah, this is essentially to formalize the contract with GoEDC. Would be a 3-year contract that would allow for symmetry over time. You know, the program will be ongoing, would allow us to work from 1 year to the next. You know, the payment to GoEDC is essentially, as part of the contract, it's essentially, if you go back to the actual loan manual again, and look at section 2.4 of the loan manual, but that basically describes how the GoEDC will be compensated for its services. It's on page 4 of the loan manual itself, if you went back to that. And the loan manual is essentially the Schedule A of the loan manual will be attached to the contract as part of the requirements of the services that we require as part of the agreement. So the loan manual will be attached to the contract. But on page 4 of the loan manual, you'll see loan fees. So essentially, GoEDC is going to be compensated through the loan itself. There will be origination fees, loan closing fees, a lot, and again, most of this would be paid by the applicant. So that's really how GoEDC gets compensated for their services. The only direct payment, I guess, would from the county, from the IDB, would be GoEDC does receive 50% of the interest earned on the loan. So if there's loans out there, they receive 50% of that interest as part of their compensation. So there won't really be any additional dollars coming out of the IDB to compensate GoEDC for this. It essentially would be paid for by the applicant and some of the interest that is generated as part of the loans. So I just want to let you know that. Otherwise, the contract is ready to go. And just need this board's approval.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the 3-year contract with GoEDC to administer the Winnebago County IDB revolving loan fund program.
Second that.
Motion made in second. Any discussion?
Just one quick question. I mean, I think it's clear, but this will be a self-sustaining program, assuming that
Yes.
all the projects are successful. We understand there's risk, but it'll basically continue to revolve money back in, which
Yeah.
is great.
Mhm.
Good.
And if I may make a comment too, it also gives us a way to support economic growth without using tax levy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the whole purpose, right?
That's right.
That's right. It's a good thing.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That is passed. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, GoEDC.
Thank you.
Yeah,
We're
thanks.
excited to take this on.
Good.
We'll get this program going and do some good, I guess.
Had a conversation with a potential loan applicant yesterday.
All right.
Good to hear.
Just a reminder, it's our only loan program throughout the entire county. USDA, we have to pick out the bigger cities, if you recall, but this is countywide.
Next item, discussion on potential action on town of Amarillo 2023 for capital economic development funding for $2,120.
As the board knows, this request has been tabled a couple of times by the IDB. And it's at the point where I think the board needs to make a decision as to, up or down as to whether this allocation is $2,120. What the funding to the board's annual per capita funding program. We do have Brian Knoll here from the town, if there's any questions. So what is your pleasure?
Um,
I'm 100% behind this, but I do know that Ellen Chief was on there also, and they had the same questions about, because we said that they had to do certain things in order to qualify for this money. And so are we gonna let other townships in now and not have to go through all the paperwork, rigmarole, whatever you want?
This is the one that's on. I can't speak for the other towns. It's up to, that's up to the
Boy,
board.
John,
To be honest, I was hoping to have that policy discussion on if we're gonna have that before this came forward. I still am support of this, and I guess, I had a couple conversations with Brian over in the town of Amro, and we had a lengthy discussion of what is a professional economic development staff. Does that mean that they're paid? He said that he had a couple planners, people that were professional in their careers, but are now retired serving on their board. And so I'm okay letting this go. And Tom, I understand what you're saying. But I think we definitely, before we get to this again, for the next round going out, we need to make that determination clear. And if that's a clause that we want to pull back, then we should do that before we allocate the next ones. That being said, my questions have been satisfied with the town of Amro on this particular one, and I'm okay with this moving forward. But we definitely need, I would ask the chairman to have us take a look at that policy to have some clarification before the next round gets allocated.
but we are planning on looking at the policy.
Okay.
completely, But not before the next round.
Right, not before the next round?
Right, because
Well, no,
we didn't think there
because
would be
it's out
enough time to do enough public input and change our policy. We felt that there wouldn't be enough time to get that done before the next round, and it's in February.
And, the next item on the agenda, we'll kind of get into that a little bit,
Right.
but yes,
I guess-
But what you're saying is, I'll interpret that as, there's various ways you can interpret the existing. policy.
Correct. Yep.
And we can interpret it as what they've applied as being, sufficient to meet economic development, because it's a broad term. How do you define, almost everything affects economic development. So, I'm saying, we may want to just rethink how we think about the current policy
Mhm.
and the next time around in 2024, and then review it again for 2025.
Being that said, I will move for the town of Amro 2023 per capita economic development funding for $2,120.
Second. Moving second. Any further discussion?
just one, that's, I guess, further discussion is that, in reading this now, it does appear that they're going to be utilizing it for economic development efforts. One of my concerns was originally is that we're just gonna use it for planning purposes, not necessarily relating to economic development, just some general study, then that's not appropriate. But this does do that, and it appears like the main effort is to encourage more commercial and industrial development. So I'm fine with it.
All right, thank you. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
As passed. Thank you, everyone. Next item. Update on per capita economic development planning program. Now we have something on how you want to present that.
yeah, I'll just introduce it, then we can just discuss it in general, but, recently, we have mailed out to all the local communities the 2024 per capita funding allocations, or proposed allocations. All the communities do have those in hand. for the first time in a long time, we did not include the ITBEC and the Oshkosh Convention Bureau as recipients of the dollars. They went directly only to the municipalities in the county. This was emailed to you, but I did bring copies today just for your,
Need another one, Jerry.
yeah, you already have. If you already have one, that's fine. Yeah, you already have it.
I have it, thank you.
Yeah. So,
Responded.
Anyone in the audience want a copy?
oh, I'm sorry. Here you go. And again, as part of this mailing and
No, it's a tour.
and as part of this mailing, and Rob and I discussed it ahead of time about the mailing and how it should be handled. We did include on the second page of this mailing, just a mention to all the communities that this board will be discussing this issue in more detail beyond 2024. It's on if there's going to be any changes to the program, that we'd like their input on the program. And that this board would set up a meeting in the next couple of months, I guess, to invite in all the various municipalities to get their input on the program. Any ideas on how it should be changed, if at all, if there's ways we can make it better. To just sort of have that discussion with all the local communities. So we essentially gave them a kind of a heads up that we are going to be getting into this a little more detail, that we'll invite them in, have a broader discussion on the program, moving forward. So that's really where it's at. Again, when Rob and I discussed that, for 2024, we mailed it out. We're leaving 2024 essentially alone for now, and moving ahead with those allocations as we have previously done in other years. So that's kind of where it's at. Just wanted to give you a heads up. We can certainly have additional discussion here today if you.
First thing, just a blanket statement, and I think the timing of all these things we're looking at is right. An asset in Winnebago County is one thing, but just to the north of us on the border of Winnebago County, we just announced the expansion of an airport. It's going to double the size and double the carriers, and really going to drive economics in our region. So the fact that we're not behind and being reactionary to some of this, I think is crucial. And I think we're going to see some exponential growth in the northern part of the county. And I'm sure that that'll be enough to hit everybody else too, because it'll be a pretty big regional asset for us. So that's, I just wanted to compliment this group, the willingness to take these things on. But Jerry, the question to you
Sure.
is, if we're not allocating to OCVB and ITBAC,
Right.
does that change the pennies or dollars per citizen? Is it?
If you see in this.
No, I saw, I just
Yeah,
want to clarify
okay.
that.
Yes, it does. It actually essentially increases the amount of funding that would go to the communities. Yes.
Sometimes I'll ask questions I know the answer to. I just
Yeah.
want to point that out.
Thank you.
Mark?
I think if we have the quality, responsibility and the quality of the submission of the paperwork that comes back to this board to decide on whether a gift be made or not. You know, when you,
Right.
if they don't want to come, or they don't want to, you know, they don't want to represent their particular entity with a qualified response,
Mhm.
then we, you know, do we really want to give them, you know, 5,000, 25,000 or whatever?
So, yeah,
That's,
it's,
and I think that's an important thing as well.
yeah, part of the judgment this board needs to make, yes. Mhm.
Any other discussion?
And I'll just mention too that this anticipated meeting when we invite all the local communities in, we had thought about doing it at the same time when the 2024 applications were being decided on, but we thought that, you know, when Rob and I talked, we thought that just might be too much for one meeting. It may take away somewhat of the focus on trying to improve the program. So we decided to just keep that separate, and the meeting on the program itself, moving ahead, we'll schedule as a meeting with only that on the agenda, for the most part.
With the awarding of,
It is,
talking about the awarding of the checks. And all
no,
that?
the actual
Discussion.
policies, moving ahead for beyond 24, for 2025 and beyond, that we would try to have just a separate meeting only on that.
Instead of having a meeting that
Right,
had the allocation for 2024,
So
we just
awkward.
always have to come in and present something for the 2024 allocation. And at the same time,
Yeah.
give us feedback on what they think the policy should be for next year or the following years. But that'd be a little bit too much for one meeting, so.
Yeah.
One meeting, allocate your 2024 allocations, provide your, you know, present your presentation for that, and the next meeting, let's talk about how we want to reevaluate the policy. Make it very clear to everybody what each meeting is about.
Mr. Chair, I've been on the board for a while as well. I'm just trying to clarify in my mind, what is the goal here? Is it, I mean, obviously, I know we've had not many cases where we've turned down applicants for smaller communities that, again, I mentioned before, we've had cases where people want to do a sign or something like that. So maybe Jerry could give us a little history as to how many, we haven't turned down that many, but how many we've actually turned down? And is the goal to try to give more to the communities that have a more detailed program, or is it to spread it out to everybody, no matter what application? I'm just trying to figure out where we're going with this. What's the concern? Is it because if we turned down a few of the smaller communities because they didn't have a good application, or where are we going? I'm not clear in my mind. Maybe
yeah,
that's something we'll have to
I
talk
think
about.
and how many were turned down in the past,
It's not a lot.
yeah, it hasn't been a lot, I go with the numbers. I don't remember.
And some have allocated to other communities too. in the past.
Yeah.
Okay.
The approach here is, you know, the board needs to evaluate whether the dollars put into the program, are going for the proper
Okay.
use. Are they being used properly?
Right, well, I
We
get
got,
that.
we got urban areas, we got rural areas. The way the program currently is set up is that the intent anyways is to funnel dollars into those economic development areas where jobs are created,
Right,
where jobs
right,
are, where
I get that.
jobs may be, where the tax base
Sure.
is, to really kind of funnel that money into those areas, which are, you know, typically they are more urban areas.
Urbanized areas, right.
But there can be projects that are in the rural areas that are
Oh, of
also,
course, yeah.
they're also potential
Mhm.
economic development areas. So the the real intent here is to see if there's ways that we can improve the program to make sure that, you know, the finite dollars that
Right.
are put toward this grant program are, you know, to make sure that they're
Mhm.
used
I get it.
properly. And typically, the dollars again have been funneled into areas where there's, you know, a municipality or an economic development organization that really are focused and they spend their whole reason for existing is for economic development purposes for their you know, particular areas. And that's sort of where the IDB
Right.
has,
I get all that.
you know, has concentrated their efforts. So,
I'm just trying to understand. I understand all that. I'm just trying to understand. Where we, I mean, I can see cases where we have special projects or special their grant programs where someone has a desire or someone is interested in doing a development in a smaller community. We should funnel some money there in that case to help. But there are programs for that already.
yeah, and again, I mean, you know, maybe it only requires small tweaks.
Okay.
Maybe some of the money is set aside for, instead of going, you know, I'm just doing maybes.
No,
just
I get it.
I'm not,
Mhm.
these aren't
I'm thinking
proposals.
through it as well.
But, you know, maybe we set aside a special project
right.
fund, you know, where some of the dollars
Mhm.
are set aside by the IDB, not allocated right away.
Right.
And then we ask for applications from,
Mhm.
you know, we put word out there to all communities, hey, you know, the IDB's got a special project fund.
Yep.
For economic development, make an application, here's the application,
right.
make an application. And we'll see if we're able to fund it, you know,
Mhm.
and, you know, just an idea, or maybe the program is fine the way it is,
Sure. Got it.
you know.
Okay.
So I think that's part of the,
I don't disagree with that. Okay, good.
John,
Yeah, no, again, I appreciate where this is going. I appreciate the conversation. And Jerry, you know, when I came into office, this is one of the things I asked you to take a look at.
right,
2 years is pretty fast for government, by the way. So I do appreciate
Yeah.
that. And George, a little bit, I think you asked some good questions. And I think the reason is why we're looking at this is I'm a data guy. And I think you're a data guy.
Right.
Everybody
Yep.
is. And you can look to see where net new construction has returned
Yep.
over the last 5 or so years. And you can see some place where it's better and some
Yep.
places not exactly the best metric to look at this. But when I think of how IDB funds are already allocated, we have all these towns that allocate to Go EDC. Now in Go EDC's area, maybe what the town of Rushford gives to Go EDC, maybe there are years they get less value back, but there are years where they have something coming up where they get more. So you have this intentional thing where you can kind of go and it seems to be working in this area. Is that something we look at a little bit wider or not? I don't know. But what's the model, I guess, that we could see that's actually going to give us the best, I guess, growth, especially with all the indicators coming up right now with the airport, and I
Right.
think we're primed for that. So that's really the why.
Got it.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. The county has a unique program.
Yep.
Most other communities don't do it this way. They have an economic development corporation or a chamber that's doing these kind of efforts.
Mhm.
And we kind of blend both together in that, where our location is.
Yep.
As does Nina and Menasha.
Mhm. Yeah, just want to look at it. If how we're doing it's the best, if we
Mhm.
decide that's the best model, then we'll
Sure.
continue as it is.
Got it.
Yep.
Yep, good.
just a review, see where we're at.
Yep.
Yeah, sounds great.
Mhm.
yeah, because, you know, the last time these policies, excuse me, last time these policies were
Yeah.
looked at by the IDB, and it's been 13 years.
Right.
And so,
Almost like the county code that still lists as the town of Menasha. We're getting there, George. We're getting there.
Are you gonna incorporate pretty soon?
Right.
I don't think counties can do
right,
that.
Anything else?
Good. Hopefully we'll get past it.
All right, we'll
Yeah, right.
go to the next item. Would be when we're gonna have this. next meeting.
Well, we may have to look at a calendar
Right.
moving ahead, we're probably looking at latter part of January or into February to do this. We can throw out some dates, at a later time here.
I wonder if, we have a meeting about this program, looking at the program and what we just talked about.
Mhm.
If we have it ahead of the February meeting, if some of the townspeople are gonna, really what's happening here? I mean, are we gonna change the meeting before February or, so if we do that, we better make it very clear to everybody in the town that's affected that we're not changing 2024.
Right.
We're talking about 2025, either if
Right.
it's before the 2024
Already have the
meeting or if it's
application
after.
plans.
I would like to get started on this, but
Would you
I'm
want
kind
to
of
do the
concerned that maybe
2024?
we should do it after the 2024 meeting.
Sure,
Oh, I think so.
yeah, okay.
Avoid confusion.
Yeah, so then the next meeting then would be to address the application for 2024.
Correct.
Then we'll have the
We'll talk
sort of a
about
workshop
2025.
meeting on,
Right.
to discuss the program or in general.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think that makes sense.
okay. I mean, yeah,
Sounds good.
So, okay,
yeah, so
We
we'll
decided-
handle it that way. So then,
sometime after the February meeting.
yeah, right.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Move and second. Oh, Brian.
Oh,
You have
there you
anything?
Is that an actual background or is that imposed?
School.
He's at school.
No, that's a background.
All right, all right.
Yeah.
I know you were teaching. Yeah. Looked a little small for college desk.
I will motion to adjourn in a second. All in favor? Aye.
All right,
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, maybe next time I'll have to fill out the applications and all the details.
What's that?